make sure you honor your body, what you're dealing with today, and it might be congestion or headache from the air quality. So you might find that you're a little bit dizzy today, so just be mindful. Begin to settle into your comfortable position to start class. Tuning into breath, tuning into how you feel today. Just acknowledge what's going on in your life, and in the way you feel and what you're thinking about. And when you're ready, release control of thought. Finding stretches of quiet space in your mind. Back into breath and body. And if you'd like to take a moment to stretch out the legs and recross, or continue to just stay right where you're at. And then we'll meet in Sukhasana, or whatever seated position you'd like to be in today. Taking a moment to notice that you have that nice tall posture, making sure the chin is not jutting forward. You're drawing the chin back, and bring awareness to the bottom of the skull and lift up the head from there, so you really lengthen the back of the neck, and then that puts your head in the right position. As you inhale, arms float up, maybe you gaze up, and hinge forward as you exhale to find your compassionate edge. As you hold here, extend through the spine, so bring heart center forward. Relax into the pose now, melt down, so energy moving down to the ground or mat. Walk the hands to the left side. When you find your twist, activate extending through the spine, bringing heart center out. Front hand comes back behind the ear. Leave the elbow right where it's at and rotate from the waist. So you're going to open up as far as you can, twisting at the waist, keep the elbow in place, and close back down. 2 more. Open, zip up the core, and close. Last time. Open, hold here, lengthen outward through the elbow, and lower down. Release the hand. Mindfully walk hands to the opposite side. You're relaxing the spine here. Then when you find your position, extend outward. Front hand behind the ear, elbow stays right where it's at, and just twist open and close, working at the waist. Open, close. This one for the hold, open, pause. Release down, releasing the hand. And walk hands to center. Zip up the core, extend arms forward and rise. Bring awareness to the left side of the body, hinge over to your left. Find your side bend and then rotate in nice fluid motion, drawing big circles, rotating at the shoulder. Sorry, I should tell you what you're rotating. Finding a stopping point and reverse. Return to your stretch. Hand can be over the head, hand can be straight up. Rise and switch sides. Find your side bend and then add the rotation at the shoulder, drawing big circles. Find a stopping point and reverse. Coming back into your stretch. And arms float up. Clear the sky. Rest hands wide back behind. Lift up through the heart, relax the legs, and begin to draw the shoulder blades together. Pull the front of the ribs in. Even though you're lifting up through the heart, you want to stay engaged through the core. And as you exhale, come out of the posture. Open it, take note of your lead leg and open up the legs into a V position. Start by walking the hands forward, focusing on bringing top of the hips down. You want to feel rooting down into the heels and into the sit bones. Walk hands to the left, twist and fold. And over to the right. Come back to center. Rise, walk the hands in. Feet together, knees apart. Hold on to feet or ankles. Start by sitting up nice and tall. And as we go through these motions, be mindful to try to move the spine bone by bone versus starting at the top when maybe you should start at the bottom. So just be mindful of the way the spine is moving. So sitting upright, lead with the heart, hinge forward. So you're extending through the spine. Starting at the tailbone, tuck the tailbone round through low back, mid back, upper back, chin releases, tucking chin into the chest. Starting with the crown of the head, extend forward, moving down the spine, coming back into that bound angle A position. So you're extending through the spine. tailbone. So we'll tuck, tailbone going into bound, angle C, rolling up the spine. And lastly, releasing the head. And one more time, extend through crown of the head, moving down the spine, lifting through the tailbone. Unhinge, coming upright to bound, angle B. Bring the knees up, balancing on the sit bones, and you can have the toes hanging down, you can have the feet lifted, you can hold on, you can release the hands. Now bring awareness to the core and to the sit bones. Start with the sit bones. Imagine that you can squeeze those sit bones together. And then pulling the organs up, lengthen through the spine. Tuck the tailbone a little bit and imagine you have a ball right here and you're going to round the body over the ball and you can hold on, zip up the core. And you remove the ball and you lengthen again. Keep the belly drawing up and in, and you can hold on or release. Good. Extend the legs forward, lower the heels, lift arms, lift heart, fold forward, pause here. Feeling the sit bones underneath the body and the heels rooting down. Deep inhale. As you exhale, just relax down into your forward fold. The spine now rounds. So you have a flexion of the spine. And begin to roll up the spine, bone by bone. Head will float up left. And then come back into your cross-legged position, opposite leg as your lead leg. Settle back in, take a moment to return to your meditation, just finding that meditative state, the breath, Ujjayi breath perhaps. Begin to feel the legs and hips root down as you feel some lightness in the torso. On this inhale, arms float up, Anjali Mudra as you exhale. And if you'd like to take a moment to set your intention for the day or for practice, be positive, be present, and believe. And on this inhale, arms rise, maybe gaze up. Hinge forward as you exhale, keep the spine extended. Relax into the pose now. And walk hands to the right. So you find your twist and fold, then extend the spine again. Now option to go back to hand behind the head, or you can keep the arms straight. But the front hand, try to bring it closer to the back hand, or even stacked on top. So it's an inhale. As you exhale, rotate at the waist. The arm is along for the ride. And fold back forward, maybe touching the hand or getting close to the hand as you can. And twisting at the waist, arm is along for the ride. And we'll do that one more time for the hold. Twist at the waist. As you come up into that lifted position with your arm, plug your shoulder, or plug your arm into the shoulder. So you're kind of hugging the arm into the shoulder. And lower down, perhaps crossing hand over hand, or just as close as you can, and pause here. Soften out of the pose and move over to left side. Once you find the twist and fold, activate by extending through the spine. Either hand behind the ear or reach over to opposite hand, twist at the waist open. Remember, arm is along for the ride, and close. 2 more times, and the last one for the hold. Good. And this one for the hold, once you find that arm up in the air, and you find your still position, plug the arm into the shoulder. And lower down. Hand on top of hand, or just as close as you can get. Activate core here, root down through sit bones, lift hands and rise, unhinge. Bring awareness to the right side of your body, side bend, soften your right shoulder and lengthen through left side of the body. Rotate so palm goes up and palm down, and up, and relax through the shoulder. Let the shoulder do the movement it needs. One more time. And now pause, but maybe you'd like to pause with the hand up. Maybe you like that sensation, or the palm up rather, or maybe you want to stay with the palm down. Rise, and switch sides. Find your side bend, rotate palm up, relax your shoulder, palm down. And up, and down. Pausing, maybe palm down, maybe palm up. Just pause for the stretch. Both arms float up. Clear the sky, hands wide, back behind. Lift up through heart. Knit the ribs back in. Just find a nice extension all the way through the spine, lifting through the base of the skull, and that will help keep the neck long. As you exhale, come out of the pose. Open up your legs into your V position. Starting with your fold forward, feel the sit bones root down, feel the heels root down, walk the hands out. Finding your new compassionate edge, focusing the stretch through the inner thighs. And just notice here, have you built up any tension in the shoulders, the jaw? Just be mindful as you practice to continue to release those areas you hold tension in. Return to the breath. So using the core, pull belly up and in, float hands above the mat or floor and rise. Side bend over to your right leg. Switch sides. Rise, both arms float up. As you clear the sky, bring the feet in, feet together, knees apart. Round into your bound angle C. Belly's pulling in. Let the head just hang. Starting at the tailbone, rise. So zip up the core, pull the tailbone forward, begin to stack the spine on top of the tailbone. Head floats up. Pulling the chest and hips forward, hinge. Keep extension through the spine. Unhinge, bound angle B. Start with the tailbone, tuck the tailbone around through the spine. Let the head hang. Rise, start at the tailbone. And as you find the head floating up, pull chest and hips forward. Extend through the spine. And we'll hold here, bound angle A. And you can hold on anywhere, the shins or the feet, big toes. You can open up the feet like you're opening up a book, or you can keep the big toes and the balls of the feet touching. And just unhinge. Tuck the knees in. Now, if the feet were dangling before, lift them up to tabletop, if you'd like. That's just the next step. So work on long spine. You pull those sit bones together, zip up the core, lifting up through heart. You can hold on or arms out, you decide. Now the ball gets placed and you round over the ball, really pull the belly in. Stack the spine, pull the belly back in. And release. Let's extend the legs down, arms float up, fold forward. As you exhale, relax and ragdoll into this pose. And dragging the hands in, stack the spine. Coming around onto all fours. Any way you'd like, find tabletop. Take a moment to find that organic movement if you'd like. Hips to heels, maybe you want a deeper stretch in the low back. Maybe the abs need to be stretched out. Or side body, working into the lat muscles. Be very mindful, so check in with the jaw. How about hand position, knee position? One more breath, and then coming back to neutral. Bring the knees in just a little bit more, not much. So from hips distance, just slide them in ever so slightly. You can have the toes curled or press down into the tops of the feet. Right leg extends back, flex the foot. Lift up through the heel, lift up through the crown of the head as if you were in cow pose. Rounding in a cat pose, tuck the knee into the chest, zip up core, pulling the thigh to the chest. One more time, cow pose, extend. Make sure you have that squared off position. You don't want to be leaning over to one side. Cat. Lower knee down, come to neutral. Pause here a moment, wrap the muscles around the spine. So zip up the core, shrink wrap all the muscles around the spine. Press into the legs and outward. So you feel a little spreading of the sit bones. But the belly's still drawing in. And soften. Reconnect. Pull belly in. Extend left leg out and up. Cow pose. Square off the hips. Cat pose. Cow. Cat. Lower down. Come into neutral. Shrink wrap muscles around the spine in that neutral spine. And soften. Hips to heels if that's comfortable. If you have a block and prefer to sit on a block, go right ahead. Hands come back behind. Maybe they touch the mat. Maybe they're hanging. You squeeze the shoulders. Let the ribs open. Lift up through the heart. And you're going up and over that big ball. Lengthening through the back of the neck. And come to neutral. Rise so you're standing on your shins now. Open up the knees and the big toes come toward one another. Hands back behind the head. You'll lean back, keeping a nice tucked in core and a straight body. So you lean back just as far as you can. Rise. Lower hips to heels. So you just hinge at the hips. Rise. Now round through the spine. Tuck elbows, round, so tuck chin, round, rise. So that's our sequence. Zip up the core, lean back. Rise, hinge at hips, hips to heels. Rise, and one thing I forgot to do and say, try to keep the hips in place as you round through the upper back. Makes it a little tougher. Roll back up. Lean back. Good. Rise. Hinge at hips, hips to heels. Rise. Keeping the hips pressing forward. Tuck elbows round through that upper back. Rise. One more time. Lean back. Rise. Hips to heels, hinge. Rise. Hips stay forward, round to the back. And rise. Good. From here, hands come down, hips to heels if you'd like. Take a moment to just relax the body in your child's pose, and then we'll get started on the flow. Begin to rise, and we'll meet in downward facing dog. Making sure your hands shoulder width and your feet are hips width. Root down through the hands, suction cup hands, lengthen through backs of legs. Take a moment either pressing both heels down or just one heel. Take 2 or 3 breaths and then switch sides. Focusing on the calf muscles, so you want to straighten the leg as much as you can. And if you're doing one leg, go ahead and switch. And come to your more neutral down dog. Right leg floats up. Tuck and step through. Pause here for a moment. High lunge, stretch out through the body. Make sure that hip is tucked in on the right side. Now soften, adjust for warrior 2. Root down, float up. Good. Soften the tops of the shoulders, but the energy now is moving down the arms, out the fingers. Reverse warrior or exalted warrior. Keep that hinge at the hip, the bend at the hip crease, and then lengthen up the right side of the body through the arm. The back arm can hang, the back arm can wrap around and bind, or maybe you'd like to place the hand on the hip. Cartwheel down, pivot, float back, plank pose. Shift your weight forward, hold plank. Down dog. Left leg floats up. Step through. Pausing here, high lunge, really lengthen the body. Make sure left hip is nestled back in toward the body. Soften and adjust for warrior 2. Root down, cartwheel up. Good. So soften the shoulders, but strength through the arms. Make sure the ribs are tucked in. Exalted warrior. Now you can gaze up if that feels best. Maybe it's a more neutral, looking kind of right through that armpit, Or maybe you'd like to turn and look down at your back leg. Cartwheel down, pivot, float back, plank pose. Now I'm gonna hold plank, but if you'd like to start warming up for chaturanga, make sure you shift forward, lower to the knees, flip the feet, lower to the heart, come up into cobra, and then you'll reverse that. We'll meet in down dog. So do that a couple of times before moving into chaturanga. So we're gonna do that section of the flow one more time. We'll just speed it up a bit. Right leg floats up. Step through. Warrior two. Exalted warrior. Cartwheel down. Hold plank, plank. I'm having trouble with my words today. So plank, but shift your weight forward to get used to that pressure in a different spot on the hands. Down dog, excellent. Left leg floats up. Step through. Warrior two, root down, rise. Good. Exalted warrior. Cartwheel down. Plank pose to hold or warm up to chaturanga. Knees down, chest down. Beautiful. We'll meet in down dog. Right leg floats up. Step through. Warrior two. Side angle. The torso now kind of stays in this position. Straighten your front leg, then open up the arms across the body for triangle. Rise and sink back in to warrior two. Good. Cartwheel pivot. Float back to hold plank with a shift forward and back this time. Make sure the hips aren't lifting, it's just a seesaw motion. And down dog. Left side. Float the leg up and step through. Warrior two. Side angle. Triangle, straighten front leg, open up the arms across the body. Good. Rise, and once the torso's up, bend front knee for warrior two. Good, pull the rib cage back in. Cartwheel down, pivot. Maybe you're ready for chaturanga. Maybe you'd like to hold plank or two knees down, chest down. We'll meet in down dog. We'll do that section one more time. Right leg floats up. Step through. Warrior two. Side angle. Triangle. Rise to warrior two. Excellent. Cartwheel down. Holding plank, shift weight forward and back. Really concentrate on the core. Sometimes it's easy to start focusing on perhaps shoulders, arms. And meet in down dog. Left leg, three-legged dog to step through. Warrior two. Side angle. Triangle. Warrior two. Good. Cartwheel pivot. Float back to your version of transition flow. Chaturanga, knees down, chest down, or perhaps hold. And meet in down dog. Step to the center of the mat. Hang in forward fold. I'm going to turn around, and you're welcome to turn around so you can keep your feet on the mat or stay right where you're at. And so begin to rise. You can roll up the spine or just unhinge. This is where I'm going to turn. But you can stay and step off the mat if you'd like. So widen the legs, wider than hips width. Your toes are at the diagonals. And bend the knees into a squat, goddess pose. Tuck the ribs in. So here, make sure the tailbone isn't sticking out. You want the tailbone moving straight down. And arms, flex the hands as if you're holding platters. And hold. Lift those elbows. There you go, right there. That's good. Find your happy place. We're very blessed to be able to use our legs, to be able to feel the lactic acid building up. It's good. Lift the heels, balance. Nice, good. Lower your platters down so the arms are in W and squeeze. Lower heels, lengthen legs and arms out into the star position, and turn the feet forward and forward fold. Hang in your wide leg, forward fold. So at the very end, we're going to hook everything together. We left off with triangle pose. We'll rise up out of triangle pose and turn the front foot so that we come into this goddess pose position. You'll see as we go along. And readjust if you've switched on your mat, and we'll meet in down dog. So reset down dog. We're going to hook everything together and change our plank position to side plank on each side. Right leg floats up. Step through. Warrior two. Be mindful of the body position, so pull the ribs in. Heavy tailbone. Exalted warrior. Beautiful. To side angle. Triangle. Keeping your front leg straight, lift the torso. Now your front foot, the right foot turns in. Open up the feet to diagonals. I like to pull my heels in and come into your lifted platter, horse or goddess pose. Zip up the core. And imagine the thigh bone spiraling backward. It's going to add a little more strength into your pose. Come into W arm platter, lift, and lift the heels. Excellent. Straighten arms, straighten legs, reach, and cartwheel, pivot down to find your high runner's lunge. Float back, plank pose, and then bring awareness to the left side of your body. Shift over to the left hand, lift the right hand. You can stack feet, you can stagger feet for side plank. Mindfully move back into plank. And over to the right. Lift left hand. Plank. Down dog. Left side, three-legged dog. Step through. Warrior two. Good. Exalted warrior. Side angle. Triangle. Beautiful. Rise. Turn your front foot, the left foot forward, and then adjust your feet to that diagonal pose and come into horse goddess position, whatever you know it as. Hold those platters high. Spiral the femur bones, the thigh muscles backward. Beautiful. W platter pose, lift the heels. Extend out, starfish. And cartwheel down, pivot. Float back to your transition flow or hold. So we'll do that one more time, just a bit faster through the flow. Reset down dog. Right leg floats up, step through. Warrior two. Exalted warrior. Side angle. Triangle. Rise, goddess pose. W, lift heels. Find your drishti. Rise, cartwheel down. Float back, bring awareness to left side. Side plank, rolling over to the left hand. Plank. Right. Plank. Down dog. Reset down dog. Left side. Float it up, step it through. Warrior two. Exalted warrior. Side angle. Triangle. Goddess. Beautiful. Keep those elbows lifted. Excellent. W platter, lift heels. Starfish rise. Cartwheel down, pivot, and your flow. Chaturanga, knees down, chest down, or hold. Then moving into our final pose of your choice, either resting or strength. So strength pose could be holding that chaturanga position, and I cannot do it, but you could hold the bent elbow position in that plank pose. You can hold low plank. You can hold a resting pose, child's pose or embryo pose, dolphin pose, or down dog. Begin to shift your mind into what is a resting pose for you. If you want, you don't have to. Sometimes just a good old rest is what is required. Taking a few more breaths. And if you're in a more active pose and would like to take a few more moments to take a resting pose, go right ahead. But we'll eventually meet on the back. So begin to come out of your pose, shifting around onto the back for either immediately going into Shavasana, or we have like 2 minutes before Shavasana really needs to happen. So if you would like to take a twist on each side or candle pose, I'm going to lead candle pose, but you definitely don't have to go into candle pose. And today might be the day where let's just rest. But any pose that you like, that stretch you didn't get, whatever feels good. And if you're following along for candle pose, you just come down onto the back. If you have a block, you can lift the tailbone slightly, placing the block under the bottom of the tailbone, or a bolster, or you can place the hands there, or just keep the tailbone down. And if the tailbone is flat on the mat, really concentrate or really allow for the femur bones, the very head of the femur bone, to nestle down into the hip. And then you hold the legs still. There's a slight bend to the knees. And you melt the back of the mat down, and then you melt the front of the body down. Staying tuned into your breath. Find a steady breath pattern. And it can be a hold at the top of the breath, hold at the bottom of the breath, or just a steady breath, or just one hold, or half breath, pause, continue breath, pause. Experiment. What helps you to get out of your mind a little bit, get out of that thinking mind of the day and what if, what do I need to do? And just focus on being in this moment. And focusing on breath is definitely being in this moment. If you'd like to continue working on the pose you're working on, or continue with candle pose, or maybe begin the journey into Shavasana. As you settle into Shavasana, or whatever your final pose is, really allow the body to release. Begin to be aware of those spaces and places and spots that you hold tension. So I will hold tension in my fingers for some reason, and I'll curl them. Begin to become aware of that, so when it's time to relax, just during your day, you can relax wholly. You know, okay, my fingers are going to crunch. I'm going to let them go. Letting the thinking mind go. Just giving it a break. perhaps it's time to take a moment to let go. Let go of everything that has been on your mind. Let go of the doubt and the fear. Any sadness you may have, just release it. Take a moment to bring a positive spin, a positive light onto what's happening in this world. What have you learned? What can you take away from the experiences that we're having now that's positive? What have you learned that's made you a better person? And as it is hard not to talk about all the crazy things that are happening now, maybe instead of talking about the crazy things with your friends and loved ones, you can begin to shift and talk about those amazing things that you have learned and how you have grown from this time. Begin to find some movement. Stretch, or just rolling to the fetal position. Slowly find your upright position. Uniting our breath with an inhale, deep energizing inhalation, meeting an Anjali Mudra. Never mind what is. Imagine it the way you want it to be. Thank you for being here, and thank you for trusting me to guide you. Namaste.
Namaste.